People of the internet. I've seen a lot of discourse around this whole Bronny James and LeBron James situation in LA, of course, the Lakers, whatever the case is. So it was announced a few days ago that Bronny James Jr., of course, the son of LeBron James, will be joining his father in the upcoming NBA season as an NBA Laker. And some people felt a way about that verdict, right? I've seen some backlash. There was a collective of people that were proud and happy and like, oh man, this is history, which indeed it was history. It's never been done before. There's never been a father and son duo on an NBA team. So it was historical. It was a historical moment. Then you had some people that were like, nah, shouldn't have been. The Lakers made a terrible choice in choosing Bronny James. There's other candidates better than him, yada, yada, yada. And people were not too pleased with that verdict. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I had my initial reactions. First of all, like, it shouldn't have came to us as a surprise because LeBron James has been saying for the longest time, like, hey, man, he's not retiring until he gets to play with his son. So you kind of knew it was coming. It shouldn't have been too much of a shocker. So when it happened, me personally, I guess I'm on the side of the internet that doesn't see the big deal. What's the problem? A father and son are playing basketball together, which is a dream. One, just to even make it in the NBA is a dream for a lot of males, especially in the African-American community. So let's just get there. Then you have a father and son duo. LeBron James, of course, doesn't need any type of introduction. Of course, whatever the case is, we've seen how Bronny's been showing he's a top prospect at his school. I think he went to Sierra Canyon. Top prospect for all the years that he's been playing. He's officially going to the NBA, so kudos to him. People are feeling a certain way because they're throwing around words like, oh, nepotism, and oh, there's people who work their asses off to get there, and, Bronny James, let's not discredit that young man as if he's done nothing, right? I do believe the work that he's put in. Of course, we know he's had some health issues before as well, too. And people feel away. I don't want to discredit him as if he's not good at all or he's incapable of playing in the league. There's a lot of NBA players who, we may or may not know that you would also question, like, should they even be in the league? So I don't want to take away his skill set and his ability as if he's just, some regular Joe Schmo on the street. Now, when it comes to the idea of nepotism, right? Funnily enough, I usually have this conversation a lot with, colleagues of mine, of course, when we talk about nepotism in the workplace in general, right? So just regular corporate America. And the reality is, folks, for the longest time, it's always been like that. Name a situation where there was never nepotism. Name a situation for the longest time, right? Name a time where we've been hearing for the longest time the saying of, it's all about who you know, right? And the power of networking. And that's been the way of life for as long as I can remember. So to say, oh, nepotism, oh, he only got there because his dad called some strings and, pulled some strings, called some shots, whatever the case is, this and the other, that's the way of the world. Whether that's a harsh reality for you or that's evident, that's just how the world works. I was having a conversation with somebody else as well, too, where it's just like, nowadays, you'll feel a lot more confident applying for that job if you got a man on the inside. Nowadays, when you're applying for a job, whether it be in the tech space or any type of job in corporate America, you start off by thinking, man, who do I know? Do I know anybody that works there? Do I know anybody over there? Or how do I get in contact with the, hiring manager, whatever the case is, or, the recruiter, whatever the case, maybe build some rapport. It's all about who you know throughout the world. So let's not act confused and baffled like, oh, nepotism has prevailed again. Nepotism has been happening for the longest time. When it comes to referrals and networking, like everybody, oh yeah, I know a guy. Even when you're asking for, hey man, what's a good place to eat, whatever the case is. Oh, I know a guy, or I asked somebody. We always go off of referrals. People that, of course, we trust their expertise, whatever the case is. So the world is ran on nepotism. So I really don't see the backlash of why people were upset that Bronny is going to be playing with his father on the NBA. I think it's a beautiful thing. Who wouldn't? Wouldn't you want to? See, the people, I sometimes I question if people like practice empathy. I say this a lot as well too. Like, are you able to put yourself in other people's shoes? If you are a father, let's just speak about a father and son dynamic, right? If you're a father and you have a young son, and usually, ideally, in most situations, you want your son to, of course, live his own life and do his own thing as well too. But in some regard, you want your son to follow in your footsteps. You want your son to, you want to be able to guide him as best as you can and, give him that guidance, whatever the case is. So it's like, I don't understand why it's so strange of a concept that a son is playing on a basketball team with his father. Is that a bad thing? Wouldn't you want to play on a team with your dad? In any field, wouldn't you want to, there's some people, wouldn't you want to work with your dad or some situations now? Because again, like I even thinking about it, I'll say this. The only criticism I have, and of course, not even necessarily criticism, a word of advice or word of caution. And I'm sure this will be the case, of course, because LeBron will retire at some point with the cases, so they won't always be playing on the same team. Let's not act as if this is going to be something that's going to be, forever. The only word of caution I would give to Bronny is at some point, yeah, man, you're going to want to play on a team for your own, so therefore you don't get lost in the shadow of your father. Build your own legacy. That's the only critique I have, and of course, basketball players change teams all the time. All the time. So who's to say they're going to play on the same team forever? LeBron maybe just wanted that one thing. He'll probably retire after this next season. Who knows? He's already been, there's been whispers of that happening for some time as well, too, or whispers of that conversation of his plans for retiring and this, that, and the other. But the man said it some time ago that he doesn't plan on retiring until he gets to play on the same team with his son. So if that's an accomplishment, if that's something he wanted to check off his bucket list, his wish list, why are we upset at that? I don't understand. Bronny James, congratulations to you, man. LeBron James, congratulations to you, man. Who can say they played on a basketball team in the NBA with their son? Who wouldn't want to say that? We've seen brothers play on the same team. We've seen, again, I think it's just the first of it being a father and son duo, but we've seen family members play on the same team. We've seen family members play on opposite teams. So I think this is a historical moment that we should actually relish in, especially in the black community, because we can't cry nepotism now, and then in other situations, people don't put us on, and other cultures, whether it's the Asian culture, the white culture, whatever the case is, they always look out for their kids. Kids have jobs waiting for them when they graduate high school, whatever the case is. So we can't do the same thing. Why is it frowned upon when we do that in the black community? I don't know, man. You learn a lot. It's like you learn like a lot about just like civil discourse, man. How people's POV, and that's why I like doing things like this, man. And I like having these conversations. I like doing this type of content because you get to learn about a lot of people. There's certain things where you feel like, oh man, there should be no confusion. There should be no debate. But then lo and behold, there'll be debate for certain things. Like there's some things that it's like there's no way this should be a debate, and lo and behold, it'll be a debate. You'll have two opposing sides that just see things differently. And maybe that's just life. And I get that. I do completely understand that is indeed a thing. But there's some things, man, when you see other people's POV, you kind of understand, like, man, we are a lot different. We may not ever see eye to eye on a lot of different things, man. But I do want to be able to have civil conversations, right? There's no need for name calling. There's no need for this, that, and the other. Leave people are entitled to have their opinions. And at the same time, like, there should be no reason why I got to look at you less than, or vice versa. You look at me less than for my stance on a certain topic versus yours. But in this digital age, especially with social media and everything that's happening, social media leaves open room for discourse. And then you really see how people feel about certain topics on a subject that you probably thought was a no-brainer. So it's interesting. Yeah, to me personally, I see nothing wrong with LeBron James and his son, Bronny James Jr., playing on the same team. Kudos to those dudes. I'm looking forward to it, of course. And you got to think of it as well, too. It's a business as well, too. You thought that wasn't going to happen. People are selling tickets. This has never been done before. So I think the Lakers season next year is going to be jam-packed, at least for the first few, whatever the case, depending on how their season goes. And again, I'm predicting LeBron will sail off into the sunset the season right after. And let Bronny do his thing and make his way, make a name for himself, continue the legacy, right? Carry on the torch with his father's name, whatever the case, if he chooses to do so. But to be upset that this even happened in the first place is ridiculous to me. But yeah, what's your take on that? I definitely want to hear. Do you guys, if you think it's nepotism, explain why. Why is it such a thing? Why is it bad now, but in other areas within corporate America, it's not such a big deal? I want to hear your thoughts on this one, folks. Do you agree that it's a beautiful thing to see? Or do you feel like, oh, it's favorites, it's this, that, and the other? What's your take on that? I definitely want to hear. I'm curious to hear your stance on the Bronny James Jr. and LeBron James playing together on the LA Lakers. Questions, comments, concerns, of course, are all greatly appreciated. That's my take. I will catch you on the next one.